the climate situation. I'm joined live from London in England by environmentalist Tom Burke. Tom, thank you so much for joining us today here on The Edge. And we're on the edge of the COP26 summit, which we're counting down to this weekend. Reports just come out from the United Nations about the greenhouse gas levels hitting record highs. No doubt this week there'll be several other important piece of information coming out. How can you sum up the current situation in that perspective?
We've just had another very powerful and timely message from the real world to politicians about the existential threat to life as we're used to it that climate change poses. And the message is very clear. Politicians are simply not doing enough, fast enough, to address the problem and keep the climate safe. We know we already have the technologies we need in order to deliver affordable energy to people without damaging the climate. We know we can afford to do this. What we're missing is the actions by politicians to make use of those technologies so that we don't threaten both ourselves and even more our children with a future that will be unlivable with.
So when you say actions by politicians to use the technologies, is it as simple as unleashing technology that we already have, or what is it that they really need to do?
The first thing we need to do is stop wasting energy. About 60 to 70% of the fossil fuels we burn ends up as waste heat and does nothing to improve the economy. It just damages the climate. We know in most parts of the world now it is cheaper to use renewables to provide electricity than it is to use coal or gas to do that. The decision to make that shift is largely a decision that politicians have to make. Lots of other people are really doing what they can. We're seeing increasingly from the financial community, which has become very aware of the risk to capital of climate change. They want to move forward. We saw even governments like the Chinese government beginning to say they won't finance investment in coal anymore. So we're beginning to see the sort of changes we need to make, but there are not enough of them and they're not fast enough.
And some of the changes that we need to make will inevitably take an inordinately long period of time. For example, I was watching something on YouTube the other day about electric and hybrid trucks and putting in an infrastructure in Germany to put overhead power cables like tram cables so that trucks could be powered as they go along the road. So it's about building infrastructure, I imagine, then.
You're absolutely right about that. Some things will take a long time, other things we can do very fast. Insulating our homes and getting rid of waste heat from buildings is something we can do very rapidly. Putting in the infrastructure to get renewable electricity from offshore wind farms will take a bit longer. What's really important, however, is that we do power and transport, which are in some ways the things we can make big decisions about fastest, very fast, so that we have more time to do the more difficult things, which are things like improving the way in which we do agriculture and grow our food so that it's not as carbon intensive. These sort of things, the way we do transport by air or transport by ships, which will take a bit longer to do. So we've got to really prioritize those things that can get us the biggest carbon bang for our buck soon, so we have a bit more time. We don't have to make the transition overnight. We've got a very clear goal. We have to have made the global energy system carbon neutral by the middle of the century. That's 20 years away. Mm-hmm. We've got to get a really good start between now and 2030, but if we do that, then we certainly can get there.
Well, there's the expression that any journey, however long, starts with the first step, and we should have made several first steps by now. But well, you talk about bang for the buck, and so money is a very important thing, and the governments need to invest in the infrastructure and making change. But at the same time, the financial system is also promoting some of the things like deforestation. There was a report saying that global banks and asset managers extended $120 billion of financing to 20 major agribusinesses linked to deforestation. So there's a balance here, isn't there, of the people we need to help us are also the people that are causing the problem.
I think it's a bit more, you're absolutely right about it. It's a bit more than a balance. We have to be sure that we're on the right road and we're moving down it, but we don't have to do everything all at once. So, of course, we've got to start getting out of doing the bad things, like deforestation, like investing in continuing fossil fuels. We've got to wind down that investment at the same time as we wind up investment in the renewables, investment in sustainable agriculture, investment in the low carbon economy we're building for the future. The big problem for that, and why the politicians are so important, is inevitably the incumbents want to hold on to the present, and we know that the present is going to become ever more chaotic and troubled. So we have to build a future that's low carbon and sustainable and make sure that that takes the priority for our investment as we go forward.
Tom, whilst I've got you here, just very briefly, do you think that the COP26 summit this weekend or next week will make a difference?
It will certainly make a difference. Now, I think even in our wildest dreams, it won't take us as far as we need to go or as fast as we need to go there. But I think it will make a difference, not the least because it continues a global conversation. Climate change is a global existential threat to all our well-being. You've got to have a global conversation if you want to deal with that. You can't leave big countries out. You can't leave poor people out. You've got to include everybody. And the COP is the one, this process is the one forum we have to keep everybody together. So it's really important because it keeps us all pointing in the same direction. But it won't be enough. It's not a cup final. It won't get us to where we need to be in one simple leap.
Well, as you say, it's about it's a journey. It's about making movement forward, and let's hope that this will be a step towards creating momentum to making the change that's sustainable before it's too late. Tom, thank you so much. Tom Burke, thank you so much for joining us here today on The Edge and giving us your insights. Thank you.